Welcome to Season 4 of Song Revolution, where you're going to find great information, interviews, and inspiration to fulfill your passionate calling to write great songs. Hey everybody, John Chisum here, President and Master of Momentum here at Nashville Christian Songwriters. We're celebrating our 10th year, which is so exciting. I just love everything that we get to do here at Nashville Christian Songwriters. We have an amazing podcast studio, a recording studio, and our offices are here in the Berry Hill area of Nashville. They call it the New Music Road because so many studios are around here. Also a lot of therapists. So we decided there's a correlation between the music business and really needing some therapy. But I'm glad you're here today. I hope you get a little bit of therapy out of today's session here on Song Revolution. We've been doing the show since 2017, and I want to encourage you to go back and check out the archives. So many great episodes. If you're new to the show, or maybe you just haven't taken the time to go back, just browse through the topics. We talk about so many wonderful things, so much inspiration and information and encouragement right here on Song Revolution. We also have a pretty big announcement coming up, and that is that Song Revolution is moving over to Cornerstone TV this fall. So you'll be able to check us out online, or if you happen to be up in the Eastern Corridor, one of the 6 million homes who tune in to Cornerstone. We're very excited about our new relationship with the fine folks there at Cornerstone TV. So be sure to check that out. Well, we've been going through the NCS Complete Songwriting Guide over the last 7 episodes, just to walk through some of the key insights and principles that we always refer back to in our coaching programs as we're working with songwriters and Christian artists. And these are things that I've just developed through my long life. I'm 187 years old. At least some days it feels like it. But I've been working in Christian music for 44 years, which is absolutely astounding when I look back at the life that I've been able to lead. I've traveled to many other parts of the world. I've taught a lot on worship leading. That was kind of big for me as an integrity worship leader back in the day. That opened a lot of doors. I've been in Nigeria 5 or 6 times, Singapore. I've been to Arkansas. And so actually all over the States, Hawaii, big shout out to aloha to all of our friends in Hawaii. But I've really lived the kind of life that a lot of people would love to lead in writing and producing, singing songs and getting to sing in front of large crowds and very tiny crowds, through all these years. I was in church ministry for a lot of years during different seasons. I have not been leading worship or performing publicly very much in the last 10 years because God's had me building Nashville Christian Songwriters. But what He put in my heart 11 years ago when we started was really to download, at that point it was 35 years of success in songwriting, producing, recording, traveling, singing, ministry, all of that, everything that we could just kind of put in one category of Christian artistry and ministry. We might call it a career. There is a career aspect to it. But for me, it's really all been built on one singular moment when I was 18 years old and I was just a little druggy kid, just lost as a ball in high weeds kind of a kid. And I had a very dramatic conversion to Christ, August 8th of 1976. And I won't go into the whole testimony, but that was the first moment that I encountered a supernatural love from God. I didn't grow up in a Christian home. We didn't go to church. We're a very musical family, but we weren't churchgoers. And I was, like I said, just a little hellion, wild child. But I encountered Jesus in a way that was life-altering. And to this day, that moment is what fuels every song that I write. And every time I come on the podcast, every time I coach an artist or a songwriter or work with my staff, that is what still fuels me every single day. I've had some low points for sure in my Christian walk, just because I'm stupid and I've done stupid things and wandered away. But it's always there. Every time I just go back to that deep place in my own soul, I remember the before and the after. And that's why I'm here, is to share that. And maybe you feel that too. Maybe there's something in your artistry, in your songwriting, that is fueled by that very first touch of God on your life.
Hey everybody, we'll get right back to the episode in just a second. But if you're a songwriter who wants to grow in their craft, finally finish those songs that have been stuck in your journal for years, and connect and collaborate with Christian songwriters from around the globe, NCS Community is the place to start. We meet every week to offer accountability, training, resources, masterclasses, feedback, and song critiques on things that you're working on. And it's just a great place to connect with other Christian songwriters and encourage each other on the journey of becoming a great songwriter. NCS's mission has always been to empower Christian songwriters worldwide, and we'd love to see you there. So check it out, NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com/community. You can find all the details there right on our website, and we'd love to see you inside NCS Community. Check it out.
I've spoken with thousands of songwriters who have told me almost without fail, I maybe less than 1% forgot to say this, but almost without fail, every single person I've ever spoken with about our programs, people who were inquiring about our coaching programs, songwriting programs, NCS community or artist development programs, they say, I am called. God has called me to be a Christian songwriter or a Christian artist or a Christian communicator of some kind. Just 99.9999% have said that to me. They've said the same things to me over and over and over again. I started writing when I was young, whatever, name some age, but pre-20-year-old. I started writing back then. I just want to use the gifts God's put in my heart and get my songs out there without fail. Those are the top three things. And that's under the category of calling. Everybody says, I'm called. And it's just a very common thing. I've been the main point of contact for entering into our programs. And so I have actually spoken personally probably close to 4,000, I don't call them sales calls, but 4,000 discovery calls, potential client calls. And without fail, everyone said that same thing. And I went through a little season where I was a little cynical. And I'm like, really? How can all these people be called? And why aren't they all just signing up for my programs? If they're that called, why aren't they signing up? And I got a little cynical there for a minute. And then I just sensed the Holy Spirit saying, yes, all of these people are called because I want to bring my glory into the earth through them. And I started realizing another thing. People would send me their songs or want to send me their songs, and they would say, I just want to know if I'm good enough. And I realized that was the wrong question, because if you've not gone through training, if you have not really developed your music, if you've not really developed your songs, if you haven't learned the craft of songwriting, unless you're just incredibly naturally gifted. Most people aren't, right? You have a measure of talent. You have a measure of gifting in some way that you probably haven't developed. And so the right answer, or excuse me, the right question is not, am I good enough? Because you're probably not yet. The real question is, are you called enough? So when I think about calling, I think about something that is very deep, something that is very passionate and heartfelt. You know, when you look at, when someone says, I have a passion for this, I'm not sure that we always understand what that really means. Because when you look at, I mean, did you see Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ? Oh my gosh. I mean, brutal. And so when you think about passion, we think about something that is deep and visceral, something that really in some ways requires a price from us. It requires, I mean, I don't want to just say suffering because I don't really suffer, but I'm passionate, but I'm willing to pay the price financially. I'm willing to invest time and effort and money. It's not that that's suffering, like Jesus, of course, but when we could not even begin to compare any kind of passion or suffering in our lives to, of course, what Jesus has done for us. But it's at least in that direction, you know? And so if you are unwilling, I'm not talking about being unable, but unwilling to invest something in who you are as an artist, then I just wonder about the depth of your passion for this. So when you're going to bandy about a word passion and even the word calling, I think I would just be careful about that. It's okay to have a hobby. It's okay to just like songwriting or like making some music. It's okay. That's fine. But when you say you're called to something, let me take a sip of this delicious espresso because I'm choking over here. All right. We'll keep that in, Kyle. Just to show everybody I'm real too, okay? Despite the beauty and perfection you see here, I'm delightfully imperfect. All right. So I just feel like we shouldn't say we're passionate about something unless we're willing to really pour ourselves into it, whether that's time or money or effort, resources. I think that we need to take a cue, you know, from what Jesus has done for us and say, if we say out of our mouths, God has, GAWD, has called me to be this, wow, that's huge. And I think we should be willing to pay the price to be excellent at what we believe God's called us to do. And it's okay to not use the word. It's okay to say, well, I dink around with it and I just, you know, I use Suno, boom, put in a prompt and here I'm a Christian artist. Okay, that's fine. Do that if you want. But I just think they're two different things, right? So maybe in some of your soul searching in your prayer closet this week, you could just ask yourself, am I really called? To what level is God inspiring and calling me to invest? To what level? What is it I'm really willing to maybe let go of in my life so that I can really focus on this? I mean, the other kicker for me, get it, Kyle Kicker, behind the camera today. The other thing for me is when people are talking to me about our programs and they're like, well, how much time is this going to take? I've had so many people ask me that, and I'm like, okay, alarm bells, you know, that's just not a good question. Like if you're called, then you're prioritizing. You are getting other things out of your life so that you can really focus on accomplishing this thing that you feel God's put in your heart. I have a dear friend down in Mobile, Alabama, and he and his wife, Gabe, Gabe and his wife are triathletes, and that means they run, bike, and swim. And these people, they're serious about it. And, as kind of a pudgy kid all my life until recently, I didn't grow up loving sports. I mean, I loved riding my bike, but I didn't love running and I didn't love swimming. And I asked Gabe one time years ago, how do you guys do this? You're up every morning and you're doing one or all three of those things. And how do you do that? They had a successful business, both of them, and just, very successful people, highly motivated people. And I'll never forget, I just asked Gabe how they did this. And he said, well, John, we make time and room in our lives to do the things we want to do the most. And it's like, duh. It's like, that's true. So if you're asking me how much time should you put into your writing or into being a Christian artist, I think that's a wrong question. I think the question is, what can you get rid of in your life? How can you prioritize so that you're not doom scrolling all the time? You're not spending every night on Netflix or Prime, just watching mindless drivel, and taking up the time. We all only have 24 hours in a day. God's given us the same amount of time, and we're the ones who get to prioritize what we do with that time. There's so many resources out there, you guys. We have so many things here to help you with growing your artistry, if that's what you feel God is really calling. There's that word again, to do. I've got some questions here for myself, and I'm going to ask you this, okay? Was there a moment that you feel God really called you? Was there a moment? Maybe it's a season, maybe it's not a second or a minute or an hour, but is there something in your life that you can point back to where that there was this deep thing in your soul where you're like, yeah, that's what I've got to be. That there was that moment for me. I referred to it earlier, that moment when I came to Christ as an 18-year-old. It changed everything. And I didn't know what it was all going to be. I mean, that was so long ago. We didn't even have dirt back then. But I'm old. But we didn't have worship leaders. We had song directors, and we counted to 4 or counted to 3, and would you please stand and let's all turn to page 72 in our hymnal and sing "Squatting on the Premises" or "Standing on the Promise." Try to make Kyle laugh. But that's what we had. That's all we had. That's all we had, Kyle. We didn't have worship leaders. We didn't have Brandon Lake. It was years later before we would be called worship leaders. But I just knew that I was going to give my life to this. And I was a musical kid, somewhat. And I just knew. I didn't know how. And you know what? I didn't have to know how, because as I've walked with the Lord, He's so faithful to just unpack and lead one step at a time. You're not responsible for 10 steps from now, or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. You're only responsible for your next right step. And if that's checking out one of our programs, if that's getting on a call with me, if that's going back through the podcast archives, if that's downloading the NCS complete songwriting guide in the show notes, whatever it is, there is one next step, and it's not scary, and it doesn't mean you have to get a second mortgage on your house or whatever. It is something that is so obvious and so simple. All you've got to do is have the courage to take that next step. You can have a vision in your brain and your mind and your spirit, if you will, but you're going to need to hold that thing loosely. Nothing that I ever envisioned way back when I was a kid has happened at least the way I thought it was going to happen. It's all looked differently. So as we pray, it really becomes more of an attitude of surrender and of receiving from the Lord the next step. Holding everything with an open hand is you don't go tell God your plans, because he's just going to laugh. If you want to make God laugh, go ahead and do that. Tell him your plans. But it's really about surrendering a moment at a time and allowing him in his own indescribable way to unfold one step at a time his plans for you. But trusting him with the outcome. That's what you've got to do. But if you know the next step is to invest in a program or to invest in yourself and your potential audience in some way, well, that's a no-brainer. He's not going to get mad at you, right? If you just take the next step and see where that leads. So, yeah, there was a time when I knew that I was called. What's the difference between writing songs and leading people through music as an artist, and kind of along with that, what responsibility comes with having a platform as an artist? I think that's a great question, because we can sit in a writing room and write songs, and maybe they'll go out to the world and influence people. Have done that for years. But there's something that is different about standing up on a platform, delivering the song. If you're leading worship, the responsibility of pointing people to the Lord, to use the gifts and the talents, whether you're a singer or a player or both, but you are spiritually pastoring these people. You are capturing their imagination, capturing their attention, and getting them then to focus their hearts and their minds and their voices on worshiping the Lord. It's a tremendous responsibility. Let me say it this way. There comes a time when it's no longer even about you. And the more transparent you become, maybe even invisible. I think the best worship leaders are the ones who really are not caught, and the best worship artists, if you will, are the ones who successfully step out of the way of what the Spirit is wanting to do in the room. Sometimes when we go to church, which we go to church on Sundays, but sometimes when we're at church, I don't know, I get so distracted with some of the antics of the worship leader. And maybe back in the day when I was leading worship full-time, maybe I caused people to stumble in the same way. If you're watching today, I'm sorry if I ever did that. But sometimes they are so distracting that I forget, that I'm supposed to be focusing on the Lord, and I focus on the drummer, Kyle, or he's a drummer, or whatever, and someone is, maybe they're worshiping, and that's okay too, but then it's a matter of me having to close my eyes and just focus, because, I don't know, and maybe that's a little bunny trail here, but I think the point is that it is a very deep responsibility to be a songwriter, worship writer, and to gather people's hearts and their minds and their attention, on the Lord. Oh, wow. How do you stay spiritually grounded in the music industry? Well, I think that's a personal issue. How do you stay grounded in the banking industry, or as an attorney, or as a doctor or a nurse? How do you stay it's the same thing. You've got to just be a grounded person as an artist. One last question here. What encouragement would you give someone sensing this calling? I think my first encouragement would be to get on a call with me. Let's talk about what artist development is, what kind of investment there really is if you're going to do it at a high level, if you're going to step up to where more and more people are really brought into the love you have for God through your songwriting, through your singing, through your production, through the way that you're presenting yourself to the world. I think that would be the first place to start. If you are unemployed, if you have no resources financially to invest in yourself, it's going to be hard. And so, our programs do require an investment, because if you're going to write and produce and release, you're not going to be able to do that for a few $100s. It really takes a financial ability if you're going to step into that. We do have lots of inexpensive programs. The artist development programs are our top tier premium programs, where we're coaching you, we're helping you to do this, or we're doing it for you in our top level program. These programs are fabulous for someone with discretionary income, or maybe a younger person whose parents are cool with you doing an artist development program to build a platform instead of maybe going to a very expensive college. We're definitely less expensive than 3 or 4 or 5 or more years at top-level music business or music university. We're definitely going to save you hundreds of thousands on that. But we have a 90-day, 6-month, and 1-year programs now that will take you into the depth of understanding, the songwriting, production, messaging, the whole wireframe, for your artist platform. We have all of that. But let me get back to our topic today, which is calling, because that's really where it starts. And I would encourage you, especially if you're a younger person, to really search your soul. Are you willing to really surrender your life to this calling? It's a long process. It's a long game. It's not something that's probably going to happen in a few months or a year or 2 or 3 years. You've got to really be dedicated to this. And so I want to challenge you to really look deep into your own soul and ask if this is really something God's calling you to, and not to take that word lightly, to really spend time in prayer, maybe get some counsel, go to your pastor or a worship leader or a trusted confidant and pray through this and talk through this. If you're an older person, I'm not sure which podcast I mentioned, Howard Grip, Nikki Lou Savage. These are people in their 60s. I'm in my 60s, still out there writing and recording and doing music. We work with people of all ages and stages here at NCS, but to really dig deeper into that word calling and discern for yourself with some counsel, with some prayer partners, if this is something God's really wanting to do in your life. All right, well, I hope that's been helpful today. Be sure and download the free NCS Complete Songwriting Guide in the show notes. Check out the archives. Jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. Check out the artists that we've worked with. Check out Anya Lee. Check out Howard Grip and Nikki Lou. Check out our roster on NCS Records, Clark Beckham and Kobe James, Dara McLean, Justin Barnett, Eau Claire, myself, Ezra Worship. Check out the artists. Read their bios and check out their music on our Spotify and YouTube playlist. Go over and check out those accounts and just see if anything's resonating with you. And you can also set up a free discovery call with me. We'll make sure that Calendly link is in the show notes. I'd ask you to be respectful of my time. And if you are not real serious, or if you are really under-resourced and aren't able to invest in a program at that level, just be respectful of my time and set up a call if it's the right thing for you. I'd love to spend some time praying with you and just discerning together if this is God's next right step for you. All right, thanks for being with me on Song Revolution today. We'll see you next time. Hey, thanks for joining us on today's episode. Be sure to check out all the information below in the show notes and be sure to like and share. We'll see you next time.